I'm 77 years old. Even saying that still feels strange to me. In my mind, I'm not that old. I still feel like the man I was in my 40s. Capable, sharp.
But when I look in the mirror now, I see someone different. Someone who has lived long enough to understand how quiet regret really is. People often ask me what my biggest mistake was. They expect me to talk about money, or a career choice, or maybe a failed relationship. But the truth is, my biggest mistake was something much simpler. I ignored a warning, not because I didn't hear it, not because it wasn't clear, but because I truly believed it didn't apply to me. I was in my early 60s when the warning first appeared. Back then, I still considered myself young for my age. I worked regularly, kept busy, stayed productive. People around me would say things like, "You don't look your age," and I wore that like a badge of honor. It made me careless. The warning didn't come as a dramatic event. There was no collapse, no emergency room, no loud moment that forced me to stop. It came quietly, in small ways. I noticed I was more tired than usual, but I told myself it was just stress. I started forgetting small things, names, appointments, but I laughed it off. Everyone forgets things sometimes, right? I felt a heaviness in my chest once in a while. Nothing painful, just uncomfortable. I told myself it was indigestion, or nothing at all. Deep down, there was a voice that said, "You should slow down. You should pay attention." But I ignored it, because slowing down felt like admitting weakness. Paying attention felt like admitting fear. And I wasn't ready for either. I had built my entire identity around being dependable. So, the one who could handle things. The one who didn't complain. The one who kept going. So when my doctor mentioned that I should make some changes, small ones, he said, I nodded politely and walked out of the office convinced I knew better. He told me to rest more. To reduce stress. To stop putting everything off. I remember thinking, I'll do it later. Later became my favorite word. Later when things slow down. Later when work eases up. Later when life gives me room. But life doesn't give you room. You have to take it. At home, my family noticed the changes before I did. My wife would ask if I was okay when she saw me sitting quietly, staring at nothing. My children would tell me I looked tired. I brushed it off. I'm fine, I said. I've been through worse. That was another lie I told myself. The truth is, I had never been through this before. The slow accumulation of ignored signals, the kind that don't hurt until they do. I kept living as if time were unlimited. I postponed trips. I postponed conversations. I postponed rest. I even postponed joy. I told myself I would enjoy life once everything was settled. Once the work was done. Once the responsibilities were lighter. But responsibilities don't disappear. They just change shape. And while I was waiting for the perfect moment, something else was happening quietly in the background. My body was keeping score. There's something people don't tell you about warnings. They don't always repeat themselves loudly. Sometimes they whisper once, and then they wait. Looking back now, I can see how patient that warning was with me. It gave me chances. Dozens of them. Gentle nudges disguised as minor inconveniences. And every time, I chose comfort over caution. I chose familiarity over change. I chose denial over honesty. At 77, I understand now that ignoring a warning doesn't make it go away. It only delays the cost. And when the price finally comes due, it asks for more than you expected. Much more. The moment everything changed didn't arrive the way I imagined it would. There was no dramatic collapse. No flashing lights. No sudden pain that knocked me to the ground. It arrived quietly, just like the warning had. I remember that morning clearly because it felt ordinary. Almost boring. I woke up thinking about small things. What needed to be done that day? What I still hadn't gotten around to? What could wait until tomorrow? I stood up from the bed and felt dizzy. That wasn't new. It had happened before. Normally, I would pause, take a breath, and continue on with my day like nothing happened. This time, something was different. The dizziness didn't pass. My vision narrowed, as if the world were slowly dimming around the edges. I sat back down, not because I was afraid, but because my body insisted. That was the first time I truly listened. Not because I suddenly became wise, but because I no longer had a choice. At the hospital, the doctor spoke calmly. Too calmly. That calmness told me everything I needed to know. He explained what had been building inside me for years. The stress, the exhaustion, the neglect, the things I kept pushing aside because they didn't feel urgent. He said, "Your body has been warning you for a long time." Those words stayed with me. For a long time. Not days. Not weeks. Years. In that moment, everything I had ignored lined up clearly in my mind. Every excuse, every delay, every time I told myself I would deal with it later. Later had arrived. And it wasn't gentle. The recovery wasn't quick. It wasn't easy. It forced me to slow down in ways I had avoided my entire life. Suddenly, rest wasn't optional. Silence wasn't uncomfortable, it was necessary. I had time to think. Too much time. I thought about the mornings I rushed through. The conversations I half listened to. The moments I postponed because I believed they would always be there. I thought about how often I confused being busy with being important. And how wrong I was. The price I paid wasn't just physical. It was emotional. Mental. A deep awareness that I had been given warnings many people never get, and I treated them like background noise. That realization was heavy. It wasn't regret in the dramatic sense. It was quieter than that. More painful. It was understanding. Understanding that life doesn't punish you loudly for ignoring warnings. It waits patiently. Then it asks for payment all at once. During recovery, people told me I was lucky. And they were right. But luck doesn't erase lessons. I survived, but survival came with clarity. I finally understood that strength isn't pushing through everything. Strength is knowing when to stop, when to listen, when to change direction before you're forced to. If I could speak to the man I was at 60, I wouldn't scare him. I wouldn't lecture him. I would simply say this. Pay attention. This matters. Because warnings aren't signs of weakness. They're invitations. Invitations to live differently. To choose wisely. To protect what truly matters before it's damaged. I ignored that invitation for too long. And while I can't go back and accept it when it first arrived, I can do something else now. I can tell you. I'm 77 now. And if you're expecting me to say I fixed everything, let me be honest with you. I didn't. Some things, once ignored long enough, don't fully heal. They only become manageable. They become reminders, quiet ones, that follow you through the rest of your life. Every morning, my body reminds me of what I once dismissed. Not in anger. Not in punishment. Just in truth. The truth is this. The warning wasn't meant to stop my life. It was meant to redirect it. But I didn't listen. So now I live slower. Not because I want to, but because I must. And in that slowness, I finally see what I was running past all those years. I see how fragile time really is. How silently life changes while you're busy planning for someday. I see how easy it is to believe that tomorrow is guaranteed until it isn't. There's a strange clarity that comes when you realize you don't have unlimited chances. It strips away the noise, the excuses, the things you thought mattered but never truly did. What's left is simple. Presence. People. These aren't things you earn at the end of life. They're things you protect along the way. I didn't protect them. I sacrificed them for urgency. For responsibility. For pressure. For a version of success that didn't even wait around to thank me. And here's the hardest part to admit. No one forced me to ignore the warning. I chose to. Because ignoring it was easier than changing. Changing meant slowing down. Saying no. Letting go of control. Accepting that rest is not weakness. And I wasn't ready for that. If you're watching this and thinking, this doesn't apply to me, I understand. That's exactly what I thought. Warnings rarely feel dramatic when they arrive. They feel inconvenient, annoying, easy to dismiss, a tight chest that fades, a constant tiredness you explain away, a voice inside that says, something isn't right, but never screams. Please hear this clearly. Life whispers before it shouts. And the whisper is the gift. I don't tell this story to scare you. Fear fades. Fear doesn't change people for long. I tell this story so you pause. So you listen. So you don't wait until your body, your mind, or your life forces you to stop. If I could leave you with one truth, just one, it would be this. Ignoring a warning doesn't make it disappear. It only delays the cost. And the longer you delay, the higher the price becomes. I'm grateful I'm still here. Truly. But gratitude doesn't erase regret. It just teaches you to speak honestly. So if something in you has been asking for attention, if something keeps nudging you quietly, if you've been telling yourself later for too long, please don't do what I did. Listen now. Because the most painful lessons in life aren't the ones we never learn. They're the ones we learn too late.